Am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, hi.
Okay, so let us start now. So today we have with us Nikita Khanna. She is born and brought up in Mumbai. She graduated from Jai Hind College in Mass Media and did her post-graduation from Sophia Polytech. She started an exciting career in the film and television industry in 2006. This is where she discovered her passion for writing. Being a history buff, she was drawn towards India's rich historical past. The French Revolution served as an inspiration and left her questioning India's First World War of Independence, which is popularly known as the Mutiny of 1857. Her research on the subject shook her understanding of history as it had been told in history books. Thus, the idea of the Vedic Warriors of 1857 was conceived in the year 2010 as an ambitious alternative version of history, a fantasy many of us wished was true. For many years, the daunting extent of the subject kept her away from it. The pandemic locked all of us in, and thus Nikita decided to pursue a long standing dream of penning the book. Through the lockdown, she read and wrote, and the Vedic Warriors of 1857 was made in shape, and thus we have this novel now. So welcome, and thank you for
Correct.
accepting the invitation. So,
Good
how
from
are
me.
you,
Thanks,
by the way?
Pranita. I'm good. I'm good. And so it's so nice to see you guys. This is a great initiative by all. And it's exciting for me to join in. This is my second podcast. I'm looking forward to what you'll want to know and what you'll have to ask.
So, can you please explain us how you have like decided to write a book on this lockdown on such kind of topics, especially?
I'm basically a screenplay writer, and
Mm-hmm.
I was, in the process of writing a few things right when the lockdown happened. And our industry was hit very badly, the film industry,
Mm-hmm.
because nothing could be made, nothing could be released. There were so everyone was in a lurch, and a lot of projects came to a standstill at that point, including some of mine. So I had two options before me. The first one was to sit and mope and feel sorry for myself. And the second one was to sit and write a book. And I chose the second one. And my husband had a major role to play in that. We were not married back then, and he told me that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things happen. This was out of control for anybody. But what is in your control is to sit and write a book, a story that you've been wanting to tell for a long time. So that's how I finally decided that I should write this one, because I'd conceived it almost 10 years before I finally started writing it. So I was like, okay, it's about time that I stopped fearing this topic or fearing the idea of, oh my God, how am I going to write a book? Because writing a book is a really long drawn task. So yeah,
I
that's what
also
I
feel
have.
it's a kind of pressure which come along with us. Like we have to cope up with the book whole as a journey.
Sorry, as a word.
Like it's a kind of pressure we come across with it. With like we have to complete a book according to the certain period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, starting to write a book is one thing, which a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people do. And I know that because most people were surprised that I finished writing a book. Because starting is
Mm-hmm.
not the problem, finishing it is the problem.
Finishing.
It's,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's a really long commitment. And you're talking about months. It could be a year, it could
Yeah.
be longer. It depends on the speed at which you write. But it's something that you have to live with every day for the next few months, 1 year, whatever, however long it takes. And you can't decide that after a few chapters you can't decide I'm bored of this and I don't want to do this anymore. then I mean, like you have to
Exactly.
finish what you started.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay. So what intrigued me so much that with the book name, Vedic Warriors. So, can you tell me something about your book? Like how this idea came, Vedic Warriors?
Yeah, sure. So, in 2009 or 10 is when I was reading something based on the French Revolution, and they sort of came together, and the army of France. I mean, like, let me not tell you too much about that, because uh, I might just get my facts wrong. You can remove that. But the point was that the French Revolution sort of inspired me to look at our own history and wonder why could we not do the same thing? How come we didn't, how come we didn't all get together up in arms and throw out the colonial powers? Or, India has been a colony not only to the British, but even to the Mughals before that. So how come such a thing has
Mhm.
never happened in our history? I mean, after being ruled over for almost 800 years or something like that, I don't know. Then I started looking at 1857, because that was the one war that it was literally like one major outbreak of rebellion. After that, most of it was everything that happened was more or less peaceful. Until one starts exploring history, there are other facets to it, which like Netaji and all of that stuff. A lot of that stuff that we have not studied in our history books. But I came across this one note by a British officer, and he had written in his note that if only all of India's kingdoms had united with all their armies against the British, then we would have fled without a war. And that was like a major shock for me. I was like, what? They would have fled without a war, and here we took 150, 200 years to get independence. So I was like, what went wrong? Why did this not happen in our history? And the more I researched about it, the more I realized that we don't know anything about our past. So, inspired by that note, I started writing a book about secret revolutionaries who actually come up with this very ambitious plan. They declare a war on the East India Company, and how they decide to start snatching the armies of different kingdoms and forming this really one mammoth army to challenge the East India Company. And while they do that, they end up attacking a kingdom, and in that kingdom, they only one person survives the entire skirmish, which is a princess, and she decides to come after these revolutionaries. So while there is this one force which is fighting for the liberation of India, there's a counter force now suddenly who wants to sabotage them at any cost, because they snatched her life, or they ruined her kingdom, and and how she will stop at nothing to achieve her motive, while they will stop at nothing to achieve their dream. So when these forces collide, what actually happens? India's freedom hangs in the balance. Will she succeed in her motive, or will they succeed in liberating India? So that's what the entire story is about. And it's called the Vedic Warriors.
So,
Sorry, go
while
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, you tell me.
So
Yeah.
I was just going to explain the title. It's called the Vedic Warriors of 1857, because they are a bunch of secret revolutionaries, and every time they conduct an attack, they leave behind a symbol, which to show the British that look, it was us. We take responsibility for this. So their symbol is a Vajra. Vajra is the weapon of Lord Indra. It is a thunderbolt. So for the British, they don't understand this. They just know that it's based in mythology, this entire symbol. So they call them the Vedic Warriors, because for them this is some religious angle that they don't understand.
Mhm. So, while publishing the book, did you face any such kind of difficulties while publishing? Like I have seen many of writers, like they face certain kind of difficulties to publish a certain kind of book. So, have you faced as such kind of?
Yeah, I think publishing is a very complex. Like writing a book is one part of the entire process, but publishing is a
Mhm.
completely different ballgame. And one really needs to know how to publish in India, how to get through to a publisher. So I didn't crack traditional publishing, so I decided to go through self-publishing, which is that there are lots of publishing houses who allow new writers like me to publish their own books. So that's the route that I chose to go with, which was a much faster process than waiting in line and hoping for a big publisher to take you on.
Hmm.
And also like while publishing also a subject which is like a bit more religious, there are certain section of the society they might get offended, why it is related to a particular religion. So have you faced any difficulties?
As such.
Actually, people who read the book will know that it has nothing to do with religion at all. It is a story about patriotism. It is a story about nationalism, and it has absolutely nothing to do with any religion. I think the title, I think most people who would stop at the title and not go into the book would probably have that notion. But once they read the book, they will not have that notion. It's simply a book that any and every Indian will relate to, irrespective of where they come from. You just have to be Indian by birth.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even if the religion is attached to it, then what's the problem? There is certain kind of people who just sees religion in everywhere. Like, why to fit religion in everywhere where we can get something good from that? You know?
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's become, everything has become so polarizing these days. Any conversation about religion is so loaded. It doesn't come without a lot of layers.
Yeah.
It's become a controversial topic to, I think India, everyone, maybe even the world over, everyone is very touchy about religion as a topic. And especially in a multi-ethnic,
Exactly.
multi-religious society like India, it's become a very polarizing topic of late. But having said that, I mean, if you're not doing anything that is going to incite or provoke anybody, you're in a good space. You have nothing to worry about. So, I mean, this book is purely fiction. It has no,
So,
yes,
like we can purchase this book from online
yeah, it's
anywhere,
there
right?
on Amazon, Flipkart, Kindle, etc. It's on every major platform that
Okay.
one can buy a book from.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
So
like,
as you have like you have written certain kind of script for the episodes for the serials also, I guess. Can you please share the experience with us, like how it was the journey, like
How
how you have
how
started
screenplay writing
writing?
works? You mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so screenplay writing is very different from book writing
Mm-hmm.
because see, the root of both of them lies in your imagination, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but but the treatment is very different because when you're writing for the screen, you have to keep in mind that people are watching it. They are not employing their own imagination. You are restricted by certain things. Like for example, uh, most often than not, we don't hear what the main characters are thinking in a TV show, in a film, or any visual medium. But in a book, the reader has that kind of a freedom, not only to employ their own imagination, but to hear the thoughts of all the characters. You are not restricted by, like for example, in a screenplay, you have to be very concise. You have a limited amount of time. You've got those 2.5 hours or 3 hours to tell your story. Where you start your story from is your choice, and how you end it is your choice. But there's a certain flow that you're supposed to follow in a screenplay. And even in and episodes, again, I mean, film works differently from television, and books work differently from all both of these. But in general, in the visual medium, it's you have to be very crisp in your writing. You have to use economy of words. But in books, it's very different. initially I'd written a screenplay for this book. So it came from a screenplay, but when I started writing the book, it completely changed. The 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 main story didn't change, the actual plot didn't change, but the writing completely changed. Because in a
The format, you
screenplay,
mean?
sorry,
The format, you mean?
yeah, the format is just one small part of it. Like for example, in a screenplay, I might say he walked into his room, picked up the phone, called up so and so person, and had this conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
hung up and then left the room. Because this is what you will see on screen, and that's what I will write. But in a book, I can write, he came into his room, he was very tense. He started thinking to himself, should I be calling this person? What if this person has this thought? But now all of these things I can read as a reader. I cannot I cannot translate this to the visual medium unless I'm hearing the character think. I have to then employ my smartness as a writer to communicate his state of mind through his actions or through dialogue. But in a book, you
It's
have
a deep
luxuries.
process of thought process, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the thought process is very different in both of these.
Exactly. I mean, the screenplay is what we get to know about the characters of the movie, or get more engaged to the movie itself. So, suppose,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let me give the example of Avengers only. So, in the movie, each and every character we had got so much engaged to because of the screenplay. The way the characters were written and the screenplay was written itself.
I didn't get that. Could you repeat it?
Am I audible?
You're audible, but I
Yeah,
think your voice is cutting in between. It's
Okay, okay.
network
So I was
fluctuation.
I
yeah.
was just telling that how much screenplay is important for any movie
Hmm.
or series. For example, Avengers. Uh, so each and every character of the movie was written so well. Like people got engaged to every character. Maybe it's the Thor or anyone. So how much important is the screenplay we can know with any movie like maybe Bahubali or Avengers or might be Mahabharata, for instance.
Hmm. How important is the screenplay you're asking me in this? Well, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
as important as having a great director or having great actors. The screenplay is the spine of the film. If you have a weak backbone, you cannot stand on it. You know, it will collapse. So you can make an average film out of a great screenplay, but you can never make a good film out of a bad screenplay. So I mean, even even somebody normal can take a really good story and make something out of it on screen. But if the story is not good, if the screenplay is not doing justice to it, then it can't be redeemed. It can never be made into a good film. So yeah, the
Exactly.
screenplay it has to be the soul of the story. It has to be what because everybody who's working on the film has the vision that the writer has shared with them, whether it is the
But I
director or the
but I
actors.
think but for me I think like the writers has to be think like too much forward the kind of thinking so that like the same process it's like like same thing but in a different manner we see like the writers has to see.
Uh, you're saying the writers need to have a unique imagination, like to be able to see things.
Yeah,
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 exactly, like
for sure.
same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, there are so many ways of seeing the same situation, and as a writer, you need to think about what are the different ways that you can tell the same story in,
Mm-hmm.
because somewhere a lot of stories are similar. I mean, take love
Exactly.
stories for instance. Boy meets girl, then there's some conflict, and then they either land up happily ever after or they don't. There is no
Yeah,
third way of doing it, right? I mean, there
yeah,
can be boy meets boy or girl meets girl also, but what I mean is that there are two people who meet, there's a conflict, and then there's a resolution. So that's the basis of any love story, or
love story.
but now how differently can I see it as a writer? Do I see it as do I set it up in a different world, in a different sort of setting, universe? Do I give it a futuristic tone? Do I treat the entire thing differently? Do I have a breakthrough treatment like a Memento, which is set in reverse? you know or am I writing something like an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which most people can't even begin to think about as a concept?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it entirely, at the soul of it, Eternal Sunshine is a love story about two people. No matter what they do, they always land up together again and again and again and again, because they're meant to be together. But now
Yeah.
this statement by itself will sound ordinary, but when you put it into the world made by the writer of Eternal Sunshine, it's suddenly a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful classic. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So actually, I was going to ask that uh, as a writer, you get so much creativity that sometimes it becomes very difficult, where to utilize this creative mind. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you might be thinking that, okay, I should write a suspense movie, might be. Then sometimes you might be thinking, no, a historical movie would be a better choice. So how can you balance your creativity? Sometimes it becomes difficult, might be.
It's not that tough. I think all of us are creative in some way or the other. I think just writers just do it as a full-time job, and we get paid for it. But everyone is creative, and everyone has a story to tell. Um, I don't know how many people I've met over the last few months who've said, "Listen, there's a story I want to write. Will you help me write it?" There's literally so many people who say that, "Oh, we have a story and we want you to write it," because they feel somewhere that writing is only for a specialist, and an ordinary person can't do it. It's not true. Anyone can write.
I think
Literally
it's a
anyone can.
prescription we carry with us. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Literally anyone can write. I mean, it's about picking up the. It's just that your writing will sound different from mine, but your writing will be unique to you. That's it. I
yeah,
mean, for me, I think everyone's a storyteller. You don't need something. You just need to believe in yourself and take the plunge. That's it. And write it as a discipline. Writing requires a lot of discipline. You have to write consistently every day. So yeah.
exactly.
Exactly, like the basic thing anyone can write, but the screenplay of it, not everyone has the patience, to sit and write every certain details.
Actually,
That's what makes
screenplay is,
it.
is a shorter commitment than a book. I can finish a screenplay in 2 months. I mean, there are people who do it in a few weeks also, or few days also. But writing is a much longer commitment, which is more daunting as a task for anyone to even start with. Hey, I want to write a book. I've written 2 chapters. I don't know what to do next. So, so that's so for me. I mean, for me, screenplay was like it requires a different kind of talent and imagination, and writing requires a different kind of imagination and commitment and discipline more than anything else.
Have you ever faced as such kind of situation, like you have written half and you are like, now I'm blank, I don't know where what should I write and where should I this should go, like.
Yeah. So all the time, every
Okay.
chapter, every page, every time I face that. Who can't face that? We every day we're looking for solutions to something or the other. As simple as आज किचन में क्या सब्जी बनाए, पिछले 5 दिन में हम सब कुछ खा चुके हैं. What do we make today? It's a mind block, right? Similarly with writing, you lose your you lose your nerve sometimes, because you're like, oh my god, I've written this, but I don't know how to take this forward anymore, because you built up something very ambitious, and now you're like, इसके आगे क्या होना चाहिए? And you
खुद
start
को
thinking,
डिसअपॉइंट करना होता है ये तो, लाइक
sorry.
खुद ही को डिसअपॉइंट करना होता है ये, लाइक
हाँ,
आई हैव
और
थिंक
बहुत
ऑन अ
सेल्फ
सर्टेन वे एंड
डाउट भी
नाउ आई
होता
एम
है.
नॉट एबल टू complete
Yeah,
it the way I am
yeah,
thinking of it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. You might write something and the next day you'll read it and you'll be like, this is junk. ये बिल्कुल
Exactly.
बकवास था, मैं राइटर नहीं बन सकती हूँ, ये तो कोई भी नहीं पढ़ने वाला, you know. So you'll go through that phases, but the point is to keep writing and say that okay, I'm going to finish this, but I'll come back to it if I get, you know, something better will come to my mind, and then I will change this. But the point is to not stop the story.
But it's not about just writing. I think everything we do in our day-to-day life, like if I have clicked a picture today and if I see it after 10 days or after 1 month, like, or even after 6 months, it's like we would have clicked it a better way in everything. Like if we write in books or anything we do in our life,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
exactly the same.
That's absolutely true. We are always reassessing ourselves. I mean,
Mhm.
constantly, you know,
We
and
don't
we
have
because we're growing, we're not stagnant people, right? Every day
Exactly.
we grow a little more.
Dynamic in nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we should have one target at a time so that we can focus on it and complete it first.
certain.
Yeah. So, by the way,
Yeah.
what is your future plan?
What
Like
is
in
my
the screen,
favorite?
Future
your future.
plan.
What is my future plan? I'm actually I want to start writing my new book, and I'm very confused about what I want to write, because part of me wants to write a love story, and part of me wants to continue under the same rhythm as Vedic
The
Warriors of
art of
1857, because a love story would be a very different genre. So I'm very confused, but I want to start writing it this month.
And what about movies and series?
So there was a series that I sold to Amazon last year. It's being produced by T Series. It's a music-based show. It's going to be very exciting. And so once I think that releases, that'll be great in terms of uh, you know in terms of having a more versatile career. On the one hand, I will be a published author. On the other side, I will have a big show out on screen. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's hopefully that will attract more shows. But I do keep I do keep I'm still part of the industry, so I do keep writing something or the other. I am writing a story right now also, which I am pitching to a lot of platforms. So that's a continuous process that doesn't stop.
Yeah, great, actually. So I think we have to end the podcast now. So it was lovely talking to you. So much we have
Exactly.
learned about writing and screenplay writing. So I hope you come again on our podcast any one day. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, Manushvimi and Pranita. I wish you all
Thank
the
you.
luck with your podcast, and I hope some big celebrities come on it and you guys get a lot of views and likes and subscribers. Good luck
Yeah.
and all the best.
Thank you.
And
Thank
to
you.
everybody who's watching your podcast, please do read the Vedic Warriors of 1857. It's a really fun book.
Exactly.
You'll enjoy it. And if you're an Indian, there's no way you won't connect with this book. So please do read it.
Exactly.
Definitely. So
Okay,
thank you so
thank
much.
you.
We wish a lot of love to you. We
Thank you so
wish
much.
that you